Okay, so here's the obligatory recap heading into this page. This is page 8 in part 3. Um, Catching up here, we've had as Jackson gets bigger, he's kind of becoming more and more of the rebel, acting out, misbehaving, um, that sort of thing. And at this point, I'm set at the morning where he's finally an inch taller than Alex, and he's sort of just revealed it to his older brother. And now that's going to set up this page. This is something I've had in the back of my mind for a little bit that I wanted to do was to kind of revisit the future scenario from Shrimp at the House, the Babysitter, where it's basically Jackson's fantasy, where he's 7 feet tall and like hyper muscular, and his older brother is like wasted away. Um, was pretty much the idea would be to sort of redo the beginning where you see here someday in the future, Alex, where like with the green text denoting it's Jackson speaking, he's setting up the future scenario again, and the idea would be that like they instantly don't buy it. He starts off and they're like, no, we're not buying it this time. So it's let's see, delete keys. So it's the idea is he's just revealed that, or he's just let Alex know that he's now the biggest one, and then the idea is he's going to lead into this like sometime in the future kind of nonsense. Just being silly, just being him. Um, on a side note, for some reason, I didn't really want to open this in my primary window. I'm basically like if I'm trying to formulate thoughts here while working on this, but if you work with Daz Studios, there's sort of two versions out there. They have the public release, and then there's the beta version. Um, and I'm basically I generally work with the beta version or with an older the beta version just before the public release. They've updated it, and I just can't use the recent update of the beta version. But but I tend to use the old beta version, and then I'll use the public release for any extraneous work. If I need to sort of manipulate a character and then re-import him into the scene, or if I sort of need to kind of create a prop real quick and to pop into a scene, I'll use the public or pro release or whatever you want to call it, just so I don't have to keep reopening the main scene. Because what tends to happen is a lot of the textures are when Daz Studios opens the file, it stores um, a lot of the textures into a temp file and then draws the textures from those. But if you end up, what I found is like if you open a second um, instance of DAZ, it'll basically remove all the text files from the temp folder. And then you end up in a situation like this. I can actually show you. Where was it? Friends Forever, I saved it. Now the question is, where did I put it? Pictures? Oh no. Promo here. You end up in a situation like this where all the textures get removed from the file and it loads the new textures from the new file. So when you come back to work in the first instance, it's basically drawing the textures, the file names from the second file that were allocated to the second file. So at the time I was working on this one, like all these wood, this wood texture was basically replaced with what it looks like is a plate overlay. So then when I come back in here, when it goes searching for file number whatever, instead of being the wood texture that this was supposed to be, it's this plate overlay. And the same thing with the skin. All the skin files were ended up getting replaced in the temp file, and you end up with a mess like this. And the only way to fix it is to basically reopen the file. So what I end up doing is I'll open two different versions. If I have the beta release open and then open my secondary files in the public release, it won't override the files in the temp folder. But for some reason, I didn't really want to mess around with the future scenario in the public. I don't know why. I don't know what was possessing me, but I didn't want to swap this out for the future. So I ended up doing this in the public release, and because of that, the menu options are sort of in different places. So you'll notice while I'm working, it's taken me a little bit longer to find the delete key button because it's in a different place than I'm familiar with the okay, and it's gonna lag than it is with the public version. And now that I wasted all that time explaining something that was probably not even interesting, here's going to be panel 2. I already rendered the first one because I had the text already, the box and texture already prepared, so I figured rather than waiting for it to render, I'd just have it already rendered when I started the video. And okay, so this is going to be 8:14. And I'll render that one, and then we need a word bubble. Paste as. And the reason I haven't trimmed this is because I'm thinking this is going to be an off-sized image. And I'll show you that in a minute. And I don't really want to trim it until I know how much of the row I want to use for picture number 2. Someday in the future, Alex. Whoops, caps lock that. Mom, Dad, I'm home from college. Basically, we're basically doing a throwback here to the first, to the opening of the babysitter. And well, Alex is going to almost immediately call him out for this scenario rather than go down this rabbit hole like we did with the first one. The thing is, I want to make this has to be a full page rather than like a one off panel, because as of the time I'm doing this, I'm not sure I actually want to include this in the story. So I want to make sure that this page can be cut seamlessly, which that means like the previous page will have to flow seamlessly into the page that comes after if this gets cut. Here's my picture. Oh, and on an interesting note here, all I did was just grab the characters from the file, the babysitter file. So incidentally, okay, so I thought this was going to be offsized. I can do this within the confines of my grid. So incidentally, um, what is this? Okay, so we got to select invert. So I select the picture I want to keep. Control C that. Edit, paste as new layer, and then I'll delete the old one. And there we go. And that means I will probably have the same thing happening with this one. Um, which, oh my god. Except in this case, I'm going to want to move this so that he's centered, because I thought this was going to be a narrower panel than normal, but it won't. Oh my god. Control C that, and then edit paste. Paste as new layer. So the idea is, well, these were the old versions. Whoops. What did I just do? So these are sort of the old versions of the characters from the babysitter, except I sort of snagged the hair from the current version so that there's some semblance that these are the current characters. But the interesting thing is that like the model for Alex is actually about an inch shorter than he really is. Whoops. In this particular story. Oh my god. Okay. So there we go. Since I've been talking too much and not really paying attention. New layer. Okay. Which you're not really going to notice on the page, but it's just a funny note. Okay, we'll put it there. Okay, now let's do our border. Layer, new layer. Layer to image size, and we'll fuzzy select that. So it's the whole point of this page is that while Alex is trying to take in the fact that Jackson's now taller than him, Jackson's basically tormenting him with this, like, how bad it's going to get scenario. Invert, select, shrink, select, invert, edit, cut. Yeah. Select none, and I do have my black border. Okay, merge down. Layer to image size. Okay. Edit, paste as new layer. Okay. Select invert. Not select none. Okay, and I got my black border. Ugh. Delete keys. Delete keys. So I think in a previous video I kind of touched upon uh, how I end up procrastinating when I get to a part I can't kind of unwrap in my head. And I think part of the procrastination with part two, I was having with part two, is that I'm just kind of anxious to get to the next stage of the story. So it's like in my mind I kind of feel this stage was a transition that I wasn't too excited about. I think too, and also because I was a little worried that this part of the story, Jackson, kind of growing bigger than his brother, would end up like taking over the story when there's more to come after it. So it's kind of like, in my head, the fun part is supposed to be the twist after he's sort of got bigger than Alex, and after he's um, kind of set himself up for sort of basically a fall. He's basically headed for a fall. Um, but it's kind of when I starting part three here. It's sort of I sort of like in my head I found like the fun. I realized that this part should be part of the fun. That I should just let it go on as it needs to. This book can be as long as as long as it takes to just play out all sides of this story. And so I've actually been chugging along with the first pages of this story, having fun with it. And really, like at this point, the only thing that's causing it to drag more than it should is just staging scenes. And that too has been kind of why I haven't done more videos between the last one and this one, is because a lot of the time is because there's been a lot of time put into staging scenes, and that might actually be interesting. But to do a video on a page, it ends up taking, it ends up making where these videos have been roughly like an hour to an hour and 10 minutes, to like pushing them to be 2 hours long sometimes. Um, let's see what expression. Oh, you know what? Because I'm using old versions of the characters, I don't have as many properties favorited. So let's just come in and favorite properties. Since I'm going to be eyes closed is a favorite, side to side is a favorite, up and down, and frown because he's going to be sad. I think in this future scenario, in Jackson's mind, he wasn't prepared to see a 7 foot tall brother. Let's see. Let's see. And how can we make him look even sadder? So, down, down. There we go. As much as I like a wide shot, this needs to be a wider image, which means I have to move in closer. Looks good. There we go. 8:15. Paste as new layer. Let's see. Come home, Alex. Oops. You're looking smaller than last time you were home. Smaller than you did last time you were home. Still not working out. Let's see. Still not working out. Yeah, I don't want that line. Here's my image. Okay. So let's put it in and see what I've got for room. Okay. Oh shoot! I didn't make that. Yeah. Scale layer 33, not 34. Let's make this you. Cancel. Cancel. There we go. Control C. Edit. Paste as new layer. Let's see. Okay, that works. Layer to image size. Edit, paste as new layer. Select invert, shrink. Okay, invert again and cut. Select none, and there we go. My border, merge it down. And I gotta bring these below the text layer. Let's see, welcome home. You look smaller than you did last time you were home. No, I don't like that. Let's change that to here. No, see, I'm really trying to. It should be last time I saw you, but I kind of feel like that's not what he would be saying, but still. Last time I saw you. I was really trying not to do that, but I think that's the line that's gotta be. Paste as new layers, like none. So it's in this part 3 here, he's being a real jerk. He breaks his curfew and then mouths off to his parents, basically dismisses their punishment, um, acting like he should be in charge because he's now bigger than his father. Now he's tormenting Alex because he's bigger than him. Okay, merge down. Oh. Let's see. I just had a wacky idea. I think he's gonna. I think the idea is to torment him even further by having him flex. Let's see. Bring it up so his head is framed. There we go. Top of his head can get cut off in the image. There we go. Even though, again, in theory, this is just Jackson describing it. Oops. What I'm going to do is let's open a layer, and then I've got to go back to number 4, files, and I've got to find text Alex. Because it, like the babysitter, they're having a back and forth here. Let's see. Not this again. Jackson. Not this again, Jackson. I don't care how tall you are. I'm not going to be 7 feet. Oh my god. Okay, so we'll just trim this down. Actually, hold on. Before I do that, let's bring the picture in. Open as layers. Just in case I need to make that a little smaller. Let's see, where is... Oh, shoot. And I've got to fix this picture. Okay. Yeah, that's... Okay, so I've got a little poke through on the tank top here. Um, Sometimes these mistakes can get hidden with the word bubbles, and I don't need to redo the whole picture, but in this case, it's not going to, so... Let's go edit, we'll go figure, and we will go geometry, and we will add a smoothing modifier, and oh, great. Let's see if I can, no. Reset that, okay, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. Let's see. I think it's colliding with itself. Use. Okay, let's remove the smoothing modifier. Figure, geometry, remove smoothing modifier. Okay. So then what I will just have to do is see if some of these existing morphs will just make it bigger. Okay, so loosen is not going to do it. Expand fabric, maybe? No. Okay, so in this case, what I've got to do then is expand the skeleton and find this is the left, where are we? Left collar. And then we will just expand it on, there we go. We'll just expand it on the x-axis and do that. Okay, so now we will render this again. And I will keep the old picture in here. Oh wait, I gotta delete the old picture from the folder. But I can keep it in here because I need to see. Okay. I just wanted to know if I needed to get this down to 4 lines or if I could keep it at 5. And I can keep it at 5. So let's fix the box while we're here. Edit, cut. Select none, edit, paste as new layer. And that is lined up right, merged down. edit, paste as. And that works. Not entirely smooth, but once this gets scaled down, and then once it's scaled down further on your screen, you probably won't notice it. So, I'll show you. Open as layers. So the idea is that's sort of one of those things that if I was looking at the full-size picture, I wouldn't be happy with, but it's something I can live with. Okay. See, it doesn't look so bad. And this is going to come up. Okay. I'm having too much fun. I can delete that layer now, and we will resize this one. Okay. Invert, Control C that, and we will edit, paste as new layer, and then delete the old one. I'm not sure why. It's pictures generated in the Pro build are not giving me a transparency when I cut, but oh well. I get that when I sort of render layers and composite an image afterwards, is I end up like not being able to get the transparency when I trim the image. Edit, cut. Okay. Edit, paste as new layer. Select invert. Select shrink. Okay. Select invert. Edit, cut. Select none and good. Merge that down. Okay, now we gotta finish this. And let's move that into place. Yeah, I think that's where I'm happy with it. Just creep that up a little. Okay. Oops, I keep coming to that one. Okay. Delete the keys. Let's try him because I want to. I'll do the angle from this side, but they're not exactly positioned, so let's see. Da-da-da. Ease down the smile just a little bit. Let's see. Oh, shoot. And straighten the hand a little bit. And we've got to bring it up. Oops. Side to side on the head. Let's see. Let's see, render that one. Okay. Oops. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to decide if I want him to be saying it in the scenario or if I want to use Jackson's green text bubble and having the current version of Jackson saying it over this. Let's see, I'm sticking to the weights. Okay. As you can see, I'm sticking with the weights. I'm the biggest kid in school, and I'm getting bigger by the day. Oh my god, file open as layers. 34. Okay. Let's reorder that, and then I've got to trim, edit, cut, select invert, control C, edit, paste as new layer. Delete the old one, and I've got to make sure that it's okay, that it's lined up with that guide. Layer to image size. Edit, cut. Oops, undo. Okay. Edit, cut, edit, paste as new layer. Select, invert, shrink. Whoops. Invert again and cut. And I've got my bubble. Okay. And now let's see. Edit, paste as new layer. Okay. Now I'm going to see if I can get that I'm to the next line. Okay, without messing this up. Now we will merge these down. like I said, I'm not sure. I've had pages before in previous stories where I've sort of told myself this is something that can get cut if it needs to. If a piece runs too long and I need to trim a page. I think I was doing that with the Iron Brotherhood, identifying individual pages where I could potentially trim, because I was a little afraid that some of the parts, I think especially in Tyler's story, I thought some of the parts might end up running a little too long. So I had identified pages that could have been cut, even though I. What the. Oh my god. Okay, and now this is just. I have no idea why it's doing this. What I'll have to do is save this and then reopen it and come back. So I'm gonna. I'll just break here. Okay, so I'm back after having reloaded this because of the mysteriously ever rotating camera viewport slash whatever. I have no idea what that was, but I've had it happen before, and the only way to clear it is to just close the program and reopen the file, reopen it. I'm gonna move these guys so I don't have the couch interfering. Uh, let's see, but delete keys. I don't think I'm gonna see that arm, so I don't need to really adjust it. But come on, there we go. But I think what I was talking about before, that unplanned break, was cut pages. So I don't really. So I think I try and, for the most part, sort of make sure each page is its own encapsulated thing, whatever you want to call it. Just in case a page has to be cut, I can do it smoothly without really. Without much disruption to the flow of the story. It doesn't always happen, but you might usually notice that there's some slight finality to each individual page. And that's just in the event that if a page has to be cut, or something I've done before is if scenes have to be reordered. You end up creating a series of scenes and suddenly realize one scene would actually work after the next scene instead of before it. And I think I actually did that with transforming Tyler. There was one section where I sort of reordered scenes. But as far as cutting pages, I haven't really seen that. I guess, been lucky that I've been able to include everything I've wanted to in the stories across the universe. One exception was in Jeremy's journal, where it wasn't so much a cut page as I basically, like, I think 3 pages into the story, scrapped what I had and started over. So, well, I guess technically I have 3 cut pages from Jeremy's journal, but like in reality, the content of those pages was somehow reworked into the story, so there's nothing really missing. Whatever the pictures that are different, aren't really that remarkable. I think the gist of the text through those 3 pages was just reworked into the opening of what actually got prepared. I think the only thing you end up missing is that the the final, the opening on the final story is sort of a little more succinct than what I had started off doing. Let's open as layers. Actually, I don't need to. I'll just copy and paste this text box. Edit, paste as new layer. Da-da-da. Let's see. Let's just bring it down a bit. That's conjunction. Okay. Wait a second. Oops. Caps lock that. Oh, and there is no way you could ever get that big in 4 years. No matter how hard you hit the weights. I think this is, yes. There we go. Whoops. Control Z to fix that. Okay. I can live with this. And now I can just resize this box. Since I've got the same number of rows, I only have to do this once for one side instead of two. Paste as select none. Okay. Okay, that works. And that looks centered. And here is. And the idea is, while they're not saying anything in scenario, the suggestion is that he's still poking fun at how small and scrawny Alex is going to look in the future, in Jackson's mind. Hmm. Actually, you know what? I'm going to redo this one. We don't really need to see that much of his hair, so I'm going to try. Let's try it again. And I'll just delete the old picture. Delete. Oops. And while I'm waiting for that, I can fix this. There is no way, not now way. because no matter how hard you hit the weights. So yeah, this page will probably make it, but just in case, I'm going to drag this joke out to the full page just in case it has to get cut. And while the text in the next page is going to flow from this, if this gets cut, it'll be easy to rework it without changing the flow of the intended panels. Here's our picture. And let's see if this works. Scale that to 34. Okay, okay, and then I can bring the text box down a little bit. So let's delete this one. And I've got to find my guide. Oops. Edit, undo. How the heck did that happen? Edit, cut, select, invert, edit, copy, edit, paste as new layer. Delete that and okay. So now we will give this one the little 1 pixel black border. Select invert, shrink, invert, and cut. And there is my border. And I wanted to bring this down a little bit. Okay, that looks better. Oops, too much. Let's see if I can grab that. Oops, come on. I think centered. It's good enough. Okay. So we save that. File save, image, flatten, and then export it to page 8. Export. And now let's take a look at it. We'll put this into the folder. We'll take a look at it and see how it goes. Someday in the future, Alex. Mom, Dad, I'm home from college. You like how on the nose he is. he, oh my God. He doesn't just say, I'm home. He has to make sure it's in the scenario that it's like, I'm home from college. Welcome home, Alex. You're looking smaller than you did last time I saw you. Oh, not this again, Jackson. I don't care how tall you are now. You are not going to be 7 foot. As you can see, I'm sticking with the weights. I'm the biggest kid in school, and I'm getting bigger by the day. And there is no way you could ever get that big in 4 years, no matter how hard you hit the weights. Okay. And that was page 8. I hope that was interesting. I do want to thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time, whichever page I decide to give you then.